This video is brought to you with thanks from NoGuff88. Maelstrom Wanderer versus Yasova Dragonclaw, Teysa Karlov, and Vhati il-Dal. We've got... do I want to take a free mulligan without a shuffle effect on the brainstorm? I think I do. I really want to get into some early ramp, and of course we don't get into any there. Apart from the Simic Signet, I think... yeah, we'll still rely on Myriad Landscape there, I think. Consecrated Sphinx might be of great use to us, so we'll keep that. And another land for us, 38 in the deck. We want to really concentrate on ramp in this Maelstrom Wanderer list. Decided to pull out Maelstrom Wanderer again because there are new Cascade cards for Maelstrom Wanderer and any other Cascade decks. So I wanted to test the deck out with some new Cascade cards in it, see how they run. Then a zero-costed Green Sun Zenith takes the Golgari player into a Dryad Arbor. Yasova playing Sakura Tribalkai, and just deciding to crack that straight away. And alright, there's a Sol Ring for us, so we can go for some coloured mana, which takes us into Sol Ring, and we'll crack this Myriad Landscape for some green mana. Was just going to go for the Simic Signet, but definitely don't mind accelerating in this deck. Read the Bones from Vhati. Then it's just a bit more ramp from Teysa, still hasn't gotten into any white mana unfortunately, and then a Rhystic Study for the Teamer player with a blue mana held up, so that might be a Swan Song or something like that. I think we can hold off on Dockside Extortionist for now, so let's try a Simic Signet. I doubt that's going to get countered, but I'd rather it was over a Thran Dynamo. Pay 1 into the Study, and yeah, it doesn't get countered, so we'll just go for the Thran Dynamo here. We'll have to allow them to draw a card with the Rhystic Study unfortunately, so maybe should have just risked the counter magic and gone the other way around there. Hinterland Logger into Rhystic Study. At the beginning of your upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, then transform it into a 4/2 Trampler. So it looks as though this is a werewolf deck maybe. Don't see why else you would run a werewolf, to be honest. And then the Dryad Arbor turns in sideways towards us and knocks us down to 39. Teysa Karlov, ignoring the Rhystic Study tax, so that is 2 cards that Rhystic Study has gotten the Teamer player. They've gone up to 7 in hand before their next turn. And then on their turn, playing a land and a Coalition Relic, and tapping the Relic down for mana straight away. And that allows them to get down their commander. Okay, Inferno Titan might be half decent actually. Yeah, Inferno Titan taking down this. That is only 1 toughness. Yeah, I don't see the harm in that. Oh, but actually we don't have enough red mana to do that. How much is Blasphemous Act? I'm just thinking of our commander getting stolen by this. Yeah, it's still 5 mana for a Blasphemous Act. Yeah, let's just lean into the Maelstrom Wanderer. If they want to steal it, then they can. Then we will pay 1 for Rhystic Study. And Cascade into Krosan Grip, so that can go on to the Rhystic Study. And we'll pay the 1 again because cascading does count as casting. And then we get into Chromatic Lantern, so not the best cascades. But we get a little bit more mana and get rid of the Study at least. So we'll just drop the Reliquary Tower and let's swing in at the Teamer player. I imagine they've already got their eyes on us anyway. And they're not going to block with their commander. Might be that the Orzhov player gets rid of our commander before they can take control of it. Yep, definitely a werewolf deck over there. A Full Moon's Rise now. Ashnod's Altar coming in for the Teysa player. Just slowly setting themselves up over there. And then a Doomed Traveller. So they'll get some extra mana and a couple of spirits there, and they sacrifice it straight away. The tokens do have Vigilance and Lifelink, don't forget, from the Necromonicon. And surprisingly, Yasova just passing through the turn. They can only gain control of a creature with less power than it. Alright, fair enough. I thought they were going to take control of our Maelstrom Wanderer, but they obviously can't. The Werewolf will flip round because Yasova didn't do anything there. That is 4, 5, 6 and 7, so I'm going to assume that there is a Rift incoming. And it's Crystal Shard for us to bounce our commander back to hand. Yeah, so Chromatic Lantern, didn't mention it before, but Chromatic Lantern is actually going to be very helpful to us here. It's the difference between us getting down Inferno Titan and not. I mentioned it in a video recently, and most of you agreed with me that the recent hate or disapproval of people including Chromatic Lantern is unwarranted. It's a very good utility card. We've got an expensive mana base in this deck with duels and fetches and stuff, and we've still just gotten a bunch of basics. So yeah, the Chromatic Lantern utility going to serve well here. I think we just swing in towards the Teamer player again and try and make them use this Rift. Okay, they decide to block, that's good. So that means that the Inferno Titan can ping some other stuff. So let's go in for Inferno Titan. That can deal 2 to that and 1 to a spirit. Not going to go after the Dryad Arbor, even though that's technically the right thing to do. They land. They're not going to Rift until our turn's been and gone, so let's just try and stick a Consecrated Sphinx. At the end of our turn, Windswept Teeth being cracked over here. And it's Hero's Downfall at the end step, so we won't be drawing anything off of the Sphinx, unfortunately. So we're going to have to rely on Crystal Shard and recasting our commander. Now a Yavimaya Hollow is in play over here. So they'll be able to regenerate creatures. And a fight creature in Uvenwald Tracker coming into play. Blood Artist for Teysa. And then sacrificing their last spirit to the Ashnod's Altar. So they'll get some mana and drain us all for a couple of life. Oh, actually, Blood Artist is targeted, isn't it? So it's just me that gets drained for 2. Then a counter going on the Coalition Relic over by the Teamer player. Now a Reassembling Skeleton. And Grim Haruspex, so pretty much everything they need now. They can sacrifice Reassembling Skeleton in order to draw a card with Grim Haruspex and bring it out easily enough. But Chill to the Bone, destroy a non-snow creature, going on to Teysa. So that triggers Blood Artist a couple of times. Oh no, they sacrifice the Reassembling Skeleton in response to that and punish them by draining them a couple of times. I think that is a price well worth paying. They would have drawn a couple of cards by sacrificing a creature when Grim Haruspex comes down. But the Teysa player hasn't had the best luck in ramping, so that's going to set them back quite a ways, I imagine. Anyway, Grim Haruspex lands. And they use the mana for Orzhov Signet, speaking of ramp. Takes them down to 1 card in hand though. Then in response it is Shared Summons, not Cyclonic Rift, before the turn ends. It's not to say that they don't still have Rift in hand. And they have searched for Agent of Treachery and Thassa Deep Dwelling. So it might be time for Blasphemous Act soon. Well, not going for either of those. It is Word of Seizing first. Untap a permanent and gain control of it until the end of the turn. And then Thassa Deep Dwelling. So I think what they can do there is flicker the Inferno Titan with the Thassa Deep Dwelling. Does it bring it back under your control? Return it to the battlefield under your control. So that means that they can keep the Inferno Titan permanently. So going to hit us for 9 by the looks of it. All 3 damage goes from the Inferno Titan onto us, and then it hits us for 6. So if they stack the triggers correctly, which I dare say they will, they'll be able to keep our Inferno Titan, and it will be another Lightning Bolt. And yeah, Thassa does flicker that, so that is theirs now. They've still got the Agent of Treachery in hand, which is worth knowing about. Okay, another land. It might be worth going for the Dockside Extortionist now. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 tokens that we'll get from that. Now let's play out the Crystal Shard first. And then we'll swing in at the Teysa player. Now deciding to trade us on that, I'm actually fine with that. We'll put our commander in the command zone, of course. Blood Artist will trigger a couple of times. And they get pointed at the Teysa player this time. So then we can recast our commander, which we don't mind doing. As long as we get some decent Cascade, that is. Having to tap out into that, unfortunately, but we'll have an untapped Maelstrom Wanderer to block with at least. Alright, Blatant Thievery. I think we'll go for the Teysa, because that's going to be difficult to remove. We'll grab the... should take the sack outlet, really, but they've only got one card in hand, so let's go for the Blood Artist, try and gain a little bit of life. And we'll take the Fight card as well. Another good thing about Chromatic Lantern and Blatant Thievery, the utility of this allows you to tap things for any coloured mana, so if you've got activated abilities from your opponents that you wouldn't ordinarily be able to activate and pay for, then you actually will be able to pay for them with a Chromatic Lantern in play. Anyway, the second Cascade gets us into Balefire Dragon. We've already attacked, so we're just setting ourselves up for next turn at this point. And then I don't think there's anything to be gained from flickering things here. We'll just flicker the Balefire Dragon. Now Vhati il-Dal coming down for the Golgari player. They've got green mana held up for the Yavimaya Hollow. Although it is risky having it be a manland. Oh, Butcher of Malakir with a sack outlet in play. Alright. We might be forced to get rid of our opponent's creatures here. And there's the Agent of Treachery from Yasova, so forcing them to take back their Teysa Deep Dwelling, which is better than them taking our Balefire Dragon or Maelstrom Wanderer, obviously. And then flickering the Agent of Treachery, they will get to steal something else at least, but it is at the end of the turn. They take the Balefire Dragon. Another land for us. So how's about... what do we want to do here? I think bouncing our commander might be an idea. And then going for Blasphemous Act. How much is Blasphemous Act here? Yeah, just a single red mana. I think that's the best thing to do. So let's bounce our commander back to hand. And then play the Blasphemous Act. In response, the Dryad Arbor is being tapped for mana. I assume that's for the Yavimaya Hollow. And then the Butcher of Malakir is being sacrificed. So I'm just going to point that at the player with the most life total, which allows them to draw a card with Grim Haruspex. Then Butcher of Malakir dying triggers Butcher of Malakir's ability, so we'll just sacrifice the Uvenwald Tracker. And that puts more Blood Artist triggers on the stack. So we'll point all of those at the Orzhov player. And then finally, all the creatures go down apart from the one with a regeneration shield on it, of course. We'll continue to ping with the Blood Artist down the middle. So Blood Artist did quite well for us there. We go up to 32 life. And now let's play the Maelstrom Wanderer out again and get even more Cascades. Alright, even more mana in Mana Crypt. We'll play that. We've got a healthy life total, so I don't think that's going to hurt us too much. Running low on cards for most of this game, but luckily we can take card advantage with our commander. Could do with refilling our hand, make me a bit less nervous though. And there's one of the new ones, Averna, the Chaos Bloom. As you cascade, you may put a land card from among the exiled cards onto the battlefield tapped. Don't have too high hopes for that, but it does go with the whole ramp plan. It's also a nice 4-2 to swing in with. So let's just drop a forest. And it looks like we're on the plan of bouncing our commander and cascading again next turn. Swinging down the middle with Averna. And we'll carry on landing, or hopefully landing, Maelstrom Wanderer damage on the Teysa player. Tooth Collector from Vhati. When it enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1. And with Delirium, at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if there are 4 or more card types amongst your graveyard, target creature gets -1/-1, so yeah, it's just a way of getting rid of 1/1s basically. which obviously they can turn your creatures into. So this now becoming a 1/1, and that kills it off. I'm not sure it should have worked in that order, to be honest. What's that? Yeah, has base power and toughness of 1. So if this has already given it -1/-1, that's not a damage counter, that's not the same. So yeah, what should have occurred there is they should have targeted with this and then turned it into a 1/1 on the stack, and I don't think that's what they did there. Either way, the outcome's the same, so it doesn't really matter. And the Golgari player decides to randomly scoop because it's Magic Online. Apologies for that. Anyone who wanted to actually see a big game, it's rolling on to Christmas. You'll be seeing this after Christmas, but I'm trying to get a bunch of videos done for the week after Christmas so that I can actually have a bit of time off. And that means playing while the patrons are fast asleep, because it'll be stupid o'clock in the morning for them at the minute. Anyway, Kakusho came down for Teysa with a sack outlet in play. Yep, and the Teamer player, the one that probably had the best chance of actually doing anything this game, has decided to scoop as well. Always seems to be, ironically, a cascading effect when someone scoops on Magic Online. So it might be that you've seen some early scoops in videos for the next week or so. Apologies for that, but there's not a lot I can do about it. Let's go for Cascade again with our commander. And on the first Cascade, it's even more lands with Nature's Law. We've done really well this game, obviously, but we haven't had the best Cascades. We've had a couple of decent ones. Inferno Titan and Blatant Thievery was really good. Or it wasn't Inferno Titan, it was the Balefire Dragon, wasn't it? And then that is Natural Reclamation. Let's get rid of the sack outlet and see if they want to scoop to this. That will Cascade us again. That's one of the new cards as well from Commander Legends. Even more lands for us. Or even more mana even. So sacrificing Kakusho in response, which knocks us down to 27, takes them up to 32. But they'll have a hard time coming back from this, I imagine. Returning the Reassembling Skeleton to play, but it does come into play tapped. So why don't we get rid of this Fiery Islet. And yeah, even more mana in Kodama's Reach. About 50 to 60% of the deck. I think it's about 60% of the deck is ramp. Because obviously we've got a really powerful commander, and if we can't cascade into stuff, if we can keep ourselves in cards, then we can just hardcast all the expensive stuff that we'd rather cheat into play. But that does mean that you have every chance of top decking a bunch of mana, like we are doing here. So let's just put a counter on that, try and thin the deck out a little bit by going for Kodama's Reach. Mindstone being sacrificed, so the Orzhov player is trying to stay in it at least. And there they get into the original Teysa Orzhov Scion. Yeah, they've gotten into good cards and they've done quite well. They just haven't had the best of luck with card advantage, unfortunately. Alright, and that's more like it. A Soul of the Harvest. We'll get some mana from the Coalition Relic. So let's play this Soul of the Harvest straight away. And then we can bounce our commander and go for even more Cascade. And we'll draw a card with Soul of the Harvest as well. So here's hoping we get into some creatures. Well, don't manage on that one. A Cultivate. Like I said before with the Kodama's Reach, we're slowly thinning out the deck of basic lands at least, but we don't actually have that many basics, unfortunately. So we'll try again with the second Cascade, and there is a Progenitor Mimic. That is very good. That will trigger the Soul of the Harvest each upkeep, as it makes a copy of itself. So the original Soul of the Harvest triggers when that comes in, and then when this makes a copy, it will trigger the other two, and we'll just gain incremental card advantage over the course of the game. We'll be able to play this Dockside Extortionist finally, and get a couple of cards off of that as well. Maelstrom Wanderer draws us a couple of cards also. But we just get into some lands and a Shadow Spear. Let's drop the Dockside Extortionist, like we said. We'll only get the one treasure from that, but we're doing this for the card draw. Alright, gets us into Hull Breach and Scroll Rack. Yeah, pretty bad draws to be honest. Let's throw out the Kessig Wolfrun and we can give our Maelstrom Wanderer a trample with that. Okay, surprisingly, blocking the Soul of the Harvest, which has trample, with the reassembling skeleton. I would have forced my opponent to go for the trample on Maelstrom Wanderer there, but yeah, we just get a bit more mana this turn, apparently. So they go down to 24. Teysa Karlov triggers. They're going to need to get a lot of white tokens into play to do anything with that, but I don't really see what they can do here, to be honest, but they might be able to pull it back, you never know. Let's throw down the scroll rack so that we can dump a load of stuff on top and try and get into something that's actually interesting. Reassembling skeleton coming back again at the end of the turn. Elspeth Sun's Champion, excellent. That's one of the ones that will dig them out of this predicament. It'll give them tokens for the Teysa Ores of Scion, and it'll also wipe the board here. And they do go for that. We might be able to stack the top with scroll rack. If we dump a load of stuff on top at the end of this turn, and then we might be able to, during our next turn, put some big stuff on top and cascade into it. So let's go for scroll rack, and we'll put everything back on top. Wouldn't mind getting into the Shadow Spear for trample, but we've got the trample land at the moment, so I think I'd rather have the shuffle effect in Blighted Woodland. Yeah, especially with that, although Apex Devastator, yeah, Greater Good is a great way to keep us in cards. I think we go for Blighted Woodland next turn so that we can shuffle everything away and then go for Apex Devastator. So let's throw down the Blighted Woodland and go for some lands with that straight away to shuffle everything around. And then do we want to land some damage on Elspeth so that she doesn't become a problem? We'll need to make use of the haste. Yeah, I think we'll just have to go Maelstrom Wanderer again here. So maybe we go Scroll Rack and put the Greater Good on top. We can't cascade into Apex Devastator, unfortunately, because it is too big a creature. That's always one that we're going to have to hardcast. So we'll put Greater Good behind a bunch of lands so that we can get rid of these lands. And alright, there's a Zendikar Resurgence, so I think we can make use of double mana here. Then we'll play our commander again. So we obviously know what we're cascading into first, that is Greater Good. That can come straight into play. And then Nyx Bloom Ancient, yeah, so this has been a mana game and a half, hasn't it? That'll trigger the Zendikar Resurgent because we are casting it. So we draw a card. Sensei's Top might help with some Cascade stuff maybe. Sunbird's Invocation from casting the Maelstrom Wanderer. And the Nyx Bloom does have trample, so that is 3, 4 and 5. If they block with all of these to block the Nyx Bloom Ancient, and the Maelstrom Wanderer has free reign to get through then. So yeah, we actually don't need to use the trample land now. Each of our lands tapping for 4 mana at this point. So we can easily get down the Apex Devastator. So let's put Zendikar Resurgent on the stack first. We get 4 Cascades here. So let's make use of the Brainstorm. And we'll put the Sunbird's Invocation on top. We can cascade into anything off the top here. Wow, getting into Hull Breach and Shadow Spear again. Alright, so let's... we'll just put the Shadow Spear on top. And the Sunbird's Invocation. So getting into Sunbird's Invocation first of all. Then the Shadow Spear. Still got 5 mana floating. Then the Great Henge. So I think this is pretty much wrapped up now. And a Beast Within. Alright, so... yeah, we actually don't have to go in at Elspeth at all then, do we? If we just kill her off with Beast Within, it does give her... It does give our opponent another blocker. Yeah, we'll just go for the Teysa Ores of Scion, because that's got 3 toughness anyway, so we can still go in at Elspeth. It just means that they can get rid of Nyx Bloom Ancient here. And we've drawn into Oko, Thief of Crowns as well. Plus counter goes on this thing because of the Great Henge, Primeval Bounty. Yeah, we're really going off here. Let's throw out the Signet, which triggers Sunbird's Invocation. Probably not going to get anything off of that. Yeah, there is Thrix on top and a Forest. play out the Oko as well. And that takes us into Sylvan Library. We put a Guardian Project and a land on the bottom. So this is more like what we want to be doing. So with that, we turn a couple of things in sideways at Elspeth, and that should be enough to take her down. They can either gang up on this for the trample and get rid of it, or they can spread the blocks around and Elspeth still goes down. So just to make sure, we'll go for Dockside into Elspeth as well. Commander damage can go on to them with the Maelstrom Wanderer. Alright, they are deciding to spread the blocks around to try and save their Elspeth, forgetting about the trample. And yeah, it looks like they've seen it now because they're pulling blockers back. No, they are moving things around anyway, so they're still going to lose Elspeth here. So they keep their beast and they lose their 2 creatures and Elspeth. We keep our mana tripler. Let's go for 2 life and 6 mana for a Primeval Bounty. And that takes us into Goreclaw, Bribery, or Jace the Mind Sculptor. Let's go for Bribery so that we can have a look at our opponent's deck list, just in case any of you are interested in that. I do like to have a look at my opponent's deck whenever we get the chance with a Bribery, because I appreciate that some of the viewers might be watching for my opponent's deck as opposed to ours. And yeah, I think we're okay to go for Luminous Broodmoth there to keep our stuff in play. They decide to scoop it up to that. That would have come in with a plus counter on it. But yeah, I think it's a fairly commanding victory in the end for us there, even if it did take a while for us to get there. We were drawing into more mana. Yeah, that's pretty much that pretty much sums up this game, doesn't it? But if we can eventually get decent cascades off with Maelstrom Wanderer, which we did here, then you can see how we can chain off like crazy. I'm glad that we finally got to cast the Apex Devastator as well, so a big thank you to my opponent for deciding to play that one out, even if the other 2 didn't. Apologies for them scooping, there's not a lot I can do about it. Like I said, I'm having to record whilst all my friends across the pond are probably asleep. I don't know what time it is for most of them over there. There's, 3 different time zones in the US? But it's stupid o'clock in the morning, I know that much. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe and comment if you like the content and want to see more from it. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.